Hey guys, welcome to the Pecan Grove kitchen. I know I haven't really shown a lot about what we're doing here and it's not finished, but I promised some videos, and one of them was when we did an Azure Standard haul. I would show you how I can sweet potatoes from Azure Standard. Danny just dug some of our sweet potatoes this morning, so they got to cure a couple of weeks, but these from Azure Standard are already peeled, cubed, and flash frozen. So we're going to be putting them into this pot. I've already put 1 quart, this is my second quart of water in here. I've already put 1 cup of sugar, and this is Azure Standard sugar, and the crystals are a little bit bigger than you're normally used to. But I find when you're cooking with it, it dissolves perfectly. It dissolves in my coffee. The Azure Standard cane sugar is organic. Our jars are ready. The cane sugar is perfect for every need I have. It melts really well when you're putting it into things and cooking. I've already added 1 quart of water and 1 cup of cane sugar. I just added the second quart of water. I'm adding the second cup of cane sugar. Now, what that does, the sugar is what is going to preserve our sweet potatoes. And salt and sugar is your preservatives. And you can, this is just what's called a light syrup. 4 cups of water or 1 quart to 1 cup of sugar. And so I doubled the recipe in order to have 5 jars of sweet potatoes. I think this should cover it in my canner. The 5 jars are hot, and this is the process that I went through to get my canner on and get it to this stage ready for me to put the sweet potatoes in. Okay, we're using the Presto canner. This is Presto Precise. This is flashing pressure can. Now if you wanted a water bath, you turn this knob 1 time and it says flashes boil water can. I want to pressure can, so I'm turning 1 more time, putting it on pressure can. Mash that center button and it starts flashing the time. You turn this and it's going to 90 because we're doing quarts, and it is sweet potatoes. 90. Then you mash again. It says insert jars. Okay, now we're ready to put our jars in there. This sterilizes your jars. So you want to go ahead and put your 3 quarts of water inside the pressure canner. The inside holds 5 quarts, and all these are just regular mouth quarts. You fill them a little over half full of water. That way they don't float up. We're going to put the top on. You put the top on where it says install and remove. You twist it to locked. You put this down and turn it in place. The jars are in, so you mash this button 1 more time and it says warm. So it's warming your jars, and you just leave it alone till it beeps and tells you to fill the jars. So we've got a few minutes while it heats up and warms our jars. This is the sterilizing process. All right, so the jars have beeped. We're ready to go. I've got my potatoes. I've been letting them sit out. They were frozen when I picked them up yesterday, and I just put them in the refrigerator to continue to thaw some. And this is 12 cups of sweet potatoes. 12 cups of Azure Standard sweet potatoes, and they look amazing. They're partially frozen, and that's why I have my syrup. It's getting hot. I've got it on high. It's almost there. We're going to put these semi-frozen, because they've been sitting out for a while, in here, let it come to a boil, and that way it gets my potatoes hot before we put them in jars that are hot, because you don't want to bust a jar. And you don't want to put a frozen sweet potato in a hot jar. And even though these are partially frozen and partially done, already partially cooked, we're going to be following the ball canning method for sweet potatoes. Okay, this is my 2 quarts of water, 2 cups of sugar from Azure, and my 12 cups of potatoes, sweet potatoes, in this water. It'll have to come back up to a boil and we'll be ready to put it in our quart jars. Our sweet potatoes have come to a boil, so we're going to start putting them in a jar. Show you, all you need is sweet potatoes, water, and sugar. The pressure canner beeped and it says fill jars, and it will hold the temperature until you're ready to fill the jars. As long as you keep it plugged up, it stays there. So we take the jars out. You do not pour the water inside the jars in here. You have your 3 quarts that you use for canning when you're pressure canning, but the water in the jars goes down the sink. Now I have over here beside me, and I don't know if you can see it, but I have my lids on, and I'm gonna put them on melt. Melt just means it's gonna be really low on my stove, where there's just a little bit of heat to heat my lids enough that they're not cold feeling when they hit a hot jar. So my sweet potatoes will be hot. My lids, even though they say don't heat them, I don't put them on cold anymore. I tried that and I had a few fails, so I go ahead and get them just on warm. You don't want them hot, you don't want them boiling. And then I have my rings here beside it. I have my little thing, it's a magnet picker upper, so it'll pick up my lids out of the water. We have a stainless funnel. I have a glass jar if I need it to pick up any moisture, but I have my stainless spoon that I'm stirring with here. We're using a stainless pot. I picked these pots up at Walmart. Now, I have like a 12 quart, a 16 quart, a 20 quart. I have all sizes of these stainless pots. You can't go wrong with picking up a stainless pot from Walmart. And they're the heavy duty, good quality. Now, you're gonna pay 50, 60, 70, 80 bucks for these pots sometimes, but they're worth it, just saying. And I use these instead of the granny ware and stuff because I can water bath my pints and my half pints and my quarter pints in this canner here. We also have a mini drain mat. They're called a rubber bar mat or something. It just has these little grooves in it. I have a large one and I have some small ones, and that just protects your cabinet. If I was to spill something over on my cabinet, it catches on this and I can pick this up and go wash it. Yeah, you can wipe your cabinet too. You don't have to have this stuff. I'm just showing you what I have. This is my wet cloth that I have for, you just put a touch of vinegar, touch of water, vinegar, whatever, and to wipe your top. And I'm also cooking Danny some rice and beef rice, I guess you could say. So I gotta watch this and not let it get overdone. Let's turn it down just a touch. You can can things that you pick up from farmers markets, Walmart's, Piggly Wiggly's, Costco's, Sam's Club, whatever. Lots of times I would, many years ago before Danny and I were growing carrots a lot, I would go to Sam's Club and pick up a bag of organic carrots, come home and can them. That is doable. If you're new to canning and you're wondering how to get started, or you just bought one of these Presto canners, I suggest carrots. Go get you a bag of carrots, like a 10-pound bag. You should be able to chop those up and follow the ball book for carrots, and you can pressure can in this Presto canner or any canner. They need to be canned in pressure, under pressure, I guess they say. Don't water bath. Well, I'm not going to tell you not to. There's some rebel canners out there that do all kinds of things, but I'd rather have mine pressured. I know they're good. That kills all bacteria. There's some good channels out there to find a lot of information on canning, but y'all wanted to see Azure. I'm going to show you the Azure sweet potatoes canned. We're even going to, in a day or two, we'll follow up. I'll open a jar to see how they canned, what happened to them, you know, as far, I know they're going to be mush, but I'm using mine for sweet potato desserts. And we're even going to do another recipe, hang on, before it's over. This is just simply canning sweet potatoes in a light syrup from Azure Standard. The second recipe you're going to be interested in if you like meals for two. We're going to get to that in a little bit. So let me get Danny's lunch done. We're going to fill these jars, get them pressure canned, and I'll walk you through how to use the pressure canner step by step today. Okay, so now we are ready to do our filling of our jars. And I'm just going to take these and slide this over just a little. And turn my handle around. Okay. And I was guessing at how many sweet potatoes to put in there because I may have to do a second batch in order to fill all 5 jars. I'm not sure how many cups will fit in one, but for Danny's dessert, that's about what I want. So we're going to take some of the liquid and this is sugar and water, and like I told you, this is a light syrup, 4 cups of water to 1 cup of sugar. If you want a heavier, sweeter taste, 4 cups of water to 2 cups of sugar, or 4 cups of water to 3 cups of sugar. And if you're really a sweet person, 4 cups of water to 4 cups of sugar. I mean, really sweet by that time. Now we're going to sit this off. Let me sit it out of the way where y'all can see. Now this is sticky, so you want to make sure that you wipe really good, and the jar's hot, everything's hot. And I turn my fire down to just keeping warm because I don't want these to cook while I'm putting them in jars. Debubble. Let's debubble and take a few of the bubbles out. Give it some room because this could pack really heavy down in here and you don't want it too heavy. So now let's wipe. Then we're going to put the ring on, the flat on, the ring. I line ball up with ball. And that jar is pretty warm. Like that. Now we're putting it in our canner and getting the next jar. One jar in, 1 jar out. We have 5 quart jars with regular mouth lids, and they are ball because Danny and I had a supply of ball lids, so I'm just using up a supply we have, and it is still on pressure can, warm, and filled jars. So it held it warm while we were filling the jars. You can still hear it kicking on. We put the lid back on and you move it to the locked position. You take this, put it down, put it back, and this is removed. You do not put it on until it tells you to. Here, we're going to hit this button one more time. And you see it says heat. You wait till it beeps and it will tell you to put this on when it beeps. So you just wait. Okay, it just went to vent. It vents 10 minutes. It was on 10 minutes and when I saw it, so it has to vent, which means you still have this this off. So you see it's steaming, but it'll vent for 10 minutes. You let it go ahead and vent, it does it for you, and you still don't touch anything. Now it's beeping and it's telling me to put the regulator on. And you can see at the top it says vent, can, and vent. If you put this regulator on over to the side with a point on either side, it is going to vent. It has to go on, and it has to go on can. If you put it on vent, either side, it will continue to vent. Now, we mash the button one more time. It says can for 90 minutes. That's what I set it for. And in just a few minutes, this little thing right here will pop up and it'll start the countdown. Okay, it took about 30 seconds or so for this little thing here to pop up. That means it's not venting anymore. This is on can, not vent. And if you leave this on vent and that does not pop up, you will run all your water out of there and you will ruin the canning process. It will not pressure can unless it is on can and that is popped up. Now, it says 90 minutes. In 90 minutes, we'll come back. All right, we just went into cool mode and it'll tell you when you can open the lid. Do not open the lid at this point. It says cool and it will show in just about 20-30 minutes that you can open the lid. So just go ahead and leave it alone. It's been about 2 hours since we started and it'll take another 20-30 minutes for it to cool down. So when you're doing sweet potatoes, it is a longer process. The pressure counter is still in the cool mode, but it should come down in just a few minutes and say that it can be opened. One good thing about this electric canner is that right there. You cannot open this pressure canner until that goes down. So once it goes down, you know you can move the green knob and open it. That saves you from possibly trying to open it and burn yourself. And this right here, once that pops open and you've got this going on, it doesn't make any racket. You don't hear any jiggling or anything like that. It's just quiet the whole time. So when your pressure canner says it's canning and it doesn't make any racket, that's a good thing. Because if it's making racket, you either have it on vent, one side or the other, or this hasn't popped up. Because once that pops up, that shuts all the venting out and you hear no racket, which is really good, because if you start hearing racket, you know something's wrong. And I stay within, you know, listening distance of this canner while it's going so I can keep an eye on it. I'm getting the second batch ready. I did my light syrup and my potatoes, but I'm adding 1 cup of brown sugar to this mixture. The reason that I'm doing this is I'm going to sweeten these potatoes on down. I'm putting them in pints, and that way they will be ready to eat for Danny if he wants a quick snack. And I haven't made his dessert. He can eat sweet potatoes that are really pretty sweet. They've already got the brown sugar, and he can add pecans, or he can add coconut or butter. I mean, he can add anything he wants to it. Honey. I don't know that he'd want to add honey after all this sugar, but you could. If it's not sweet enough, add something else. But these will be ready to eat pint jars. As this is coming up to a boil, this would be the time you would add any seasonings you want, like cinnamon or ginger or both, vanilla, whatever you would like to add to it could be added at this point. Again, these are pints that I'm fixing to be putting it in, and we're going to be canning it for 75 minutes. So these will be pretty much mush. Danny can make a mashed sweet potato or something with it, but it'll be in pint size, ready to eat. All right, it's on cool and it shows 4 minutes. So when it gets down to that time, we're going to show you that this little booger has come down. It'll pop down and we can open the lid at that point. I would let it quit making racket before I opened it, so you want to take this off before you take that and open it up, and then you'll turn the lid to here and we'll take out our jars and see what our sweet potatoes look like. I always take this off with a pot holder. You just lift straight up and it comes off. And I do this too, just in case there's any steam there. You don't want it on your hand, but usually there's not. And then you open it like that. It's not hot here. This is not hot. But I open it away from me, just in case. And if there's any water, you let it drip because you don't want it dripping on it. Flip it up, put it in your sink. Now we're going to be putting these on that board over there. It's 5 quarts. And look at that. Oh my goodness. And we'll get the water off in a minute. They still look like little chunks of sweet potatoes. Now when they cool off, I don't know if they'll mash together or what, but right now they're just bubbling as little sweet potatoes. And I think that is pretty amazing. And y'all, this is my rolling cart. And I have a dedicated circuit that I roll this over to and use it, and then I unplug it and bring it over and put my nice pretty jars of sweet potatoes on that board and let them cool. Now we're going to start the second batch of sweet potatoes, and they're going to be in pints. Alright, so we're going to start batch number 2. Pressure can is flashing. We're going to hit this time. We're going to roll this thing to 75 minutes. Alright, we're going to punch it in. Insert jars. It says insert jars. Now, you want to make sure that you're at your fill line, and there's a fill line in there. I don't know where it's at, somewhere. But I've got my water to the fill line. Once you get the water, you can't really see it. But it holds 3 quarts. So you want to make sure your 3 quarts are back in there. You're at your fill line. And then you insert your jars. And once the jars are in there, you put your lid on. You do that. It's going to warm your jars up. Once you've filled your jars and got your lids on and put them in, we're going to put the lid on and start the canning process all over again. Now that we have the lid on, we've shut this down, and always make sure that's not in the way of this. You don't have your regulator on. We fill the jars, you punch it one time, and it says it's heating it up. So once it gets to canning stage, it will tell you that it's going to vent. Then it will tell you put the regulator on. Right now, you don't have to touch it again until it tells you to put the regulator on. Once you put the regulator on, you don't touch it again till it's cooled and ready to come out. So the only time that you really have to watch it closely is when you're warming your jars and when you're letting it come up to heat and pressure to put the regulator on. Okay, we are here to put the regulator on. And remember, right here, this is making racket because it's doing, push that straight on and make sure it's on can, not over here pointing to vent and not over here pointing to vent, straight ahead. That's going to make racket for just a few minutes. You're going to hit this button. We're canning pints for 75 minutes. This is going to make racket for just a few seconds. And you don't touch this again until it's time to open it. Nothing else to do from this point forward. It'll can for 75 minutes. Then it will go into cool mode. And then when it's ready, it'll tell you it's done. That's when you open it. Here it's calming down. This is fixing to pop up. Building up pressure. I feel like Kamala Harris when her teleprompter went off. I'm waiting on it. Come on, come on. I know it's fixing to happen. I feel like I'm waiting on a teleprompter to come on again. Usually within a minute, so I know I'm having to kill time so you can see it in real time. All right. Once that happens, you hear how quiet it is? Now that is what happens the whole time it's canning. This does not jiggle, guys. So if you're waiting on it to jiggle, it's not going to happen. It stays quiet and peaceful for 75 minutes. Then it goes into cool down mode, and then it tells you it is done.
Tastes like something you eat at Thanksgiving or Christmas.
Okay guys, what I did, I've mixed up some of the sweet potatoes. I had them cooked from Azure Standard. I added some coconut and some of Danny's roasted pecans, broke them up into pieces, and just, it'll be the same as if I take one of the pint jars that I'm canning now, that I put brown sugar in, and added, once we opened the jar, mashed it up, added pecans and coconut. So what do you think? It's a two-person pint jar of goodness that we don't have to cook.
Yeah, I mean, something happens and you can't cook, you can open the jar basically and just mash up what's in it. Throw a few nuts over there, and it's already sweetened.
Coconut, cinnamon if you want it.
Yeah, whatever you want to add in it, and just eat it out of the jar. You can stir it up in the jar and eat it, you know what I mean?
Yep, save dishes.
Yeah. It's good. Like I said, it tastes like sweet potato dessert at Thanksgiving.
And I didn't have to do any eggs, no bacon, no nothing.
Right.
I'll just have to open a pint jar and add my...
I like it.
I like it.
It's good to me. Sound like you got something else going on here.
The canner's going into its canning mode now.
75 minutes?
Yes, that's the pints. So what do you think about the Azure Standard turning it into individual, ready to eat? Those will be for your pies, for your dessert. The quarts. The pints will be for...
I mean, they cubed them up. They didn't come apart. They stayed together. They didn't fall apart.
Yeah.
I think it's a... I think it's a really good idea, to be honest with you. I mean, it beats the heck out of not having nothing.
And just opening a jar and adding our pecans and coconut.
Well, you don't have to do it with just a pint. You could do it with a quart, too.
Yeah, if we're real hungry.
Well, I mean, if you're fixing a Thanksgiving dessert or for a bunch of people, instead of just doing a pint jar, you could do a quart jar and do the same thing.
Yeah. No bacon required.
That's right.
Okay, guys, it's been a long day. I managed to get 5 quarts, 8 pints. All 5 quarts have sealed. I think, let's see, 1, 2, 3... I think 4 or 5 of these have sealed already. They just came out about 5-10 minutes ago. And I think it's a win-win because by having the pints, I can, like Danny said, I can mix it up. I don't have to cook it anymore. All I can do is just add in his additives. Like he could eat it straight like mashed potatoes. It would be sweet enough for sweet potatoes mashed, I guess I could say that way. But by adding coconut or pecans into it, it makes it taste like a Thanksgiving meal, and I didn't have to cook it. I just simply open the jar and make it. And by having the quarts, I could do the same thing if we needed a bigger amount if there's more people here. So Azure Standard frozen sweet potatoes, Can they be canned? Look at this. You can see the potatoes. You can tell what they look like. They did not mash up, and I didn't overfill them. I only put potatoes to right around here, and then the water, or the syrup, should I say, and they canned up beautifully. So thank you, As Your Standard, for the frozen sweet potatoes. It's going to be a great asset to my kitchen. If you would like to check out As Your Standard, because they have high quality, non-GMO products and organic, most all of them are organic, a company that provides good food. I like what I've gotten so far, and I like that I can can these sweet potatoes. So, guys, stay with us. We're going to show you more from As Your Standard as we go along. We will show you more of my cooking, what I do. People have asked me to start cooking again, and I'm finally getting my kitchen. It's not perfect, it's not finished, but in some ways, we'll finish it along. Also, if you would like to check out the Presto canner. I like my little electric canner because it helps me right now while I'm transitioning back and forth. I still have my canners. I still have 3 pressure canners that go on the stove. But with a glass top stove here, and me uncertain about this stove because I've only had it less than a year. I'm trying to figure it out, and I'm not good at pressure canning on a glass top. I don't like it. So the old stove Danny and I had was glass top, and we knew what we could do. These new stoves shut off. They have shut-offs on them all over the place. So we've got to figure out my canning kitchen and what we're going to do with that in order for me to can with the big pressure canners. But what about canning? I can do all day long on this stove, and we're going to be doing cranberry sauce from As Your Standard. I got fresh frozen cranberries, so check it out in the next few days. Cranberry sauce, the Deepsouth way, or Pecan Grove way. Thank you, guys. Out of the 20-pound frozen sweet potatoes that I got from Azure, I got 10 quarts. One of them did not seal, so I put it in the refrigerator. I got 18 pints. That's off one 20-pound box. And while I was at it, the last batch of pints didn't fill the canner, so I did 4 of my greens because they both can at the same time. And while these were going, I did the dill pickles because they water bath, and I did that on the stove, and I did the cranberry sauce from the cranberries from Azure, and look how purple. The cranberries were absolutely beautiful. And I got 6 pints, well, maybe 7 pints because I went ahead and put some in the fridge. All in 2 days' work.